Giving you a sneak peek of what to expect on Friday night. Welcome to our Blitz Weekly Web Chat. It's our first episode of the year as we approach week 0 of the high school football season. This Friday, August 17th. Can't believe it's already here. It means the episode now where we give bold season predictions, break down some of the big games of the week, and a couple guests we hope to have each and every week talk about high school football this year. It's Ian Guerin of the Sun News and Matt Parris of ESPN Radio. Ian, you ready for high school football?
Absolutely. It's about time.
Yeah.
Definitely time. I'm stoked. I'm stoked, man.
Yeah, Matt's he's going to be doing let's just kind of talk about what we're going to be doing this year. You've been the prep beat writer at the Sun News for how many years? 2 or 3?
A couple of years.
Yeah, and you know everything around the Grand Strand. And Matt, you're putting on a show on ESPN Radio.
Yeah, it's called Friday Night Highlights. Going to start this Friday from 9 to 10 p.m. on 100.3. Going to wrap up the games as they are in action. Pretty excited.
Yeah, we're all excited. More coverage means more interest in the high school football scene, and obviously a couple Grand Strand guys here, so we're going to be talking about mostly Grand Strand teams. Let's take a look right now at our games of the week, at least for week number 0. Central at Dillon, that's going to be the PD game of the week. That's a powerhouse, 2A powerhouse programs, but the game we're going to be talking about here quite a bit. Georgetown taking on Conway. Let's get right into it, guys. Georgetown hitting the road, taking on a 4A team. Ian, it looks like the Bulldogs are going to have their hands full.
Absolutely. Conway's offense is going to put up some serious points this year, and I really think that the key to this game for Conway is whether or not they can just hold on to the football. If they put it on the ground, Georgetown's got a chance. If they don't, I think you're gonna see that potent Conway offense right off the bat.
Michael Moody's a special player. You've got to talk to Chuck Jordan. It's gonna be fun to watch this game.
It is, and you know, Georgetown, while they're a 3A team, they're definitely not to be overlooked. And Chuck Jordan told me this week that he knows he set up a tougher schedule and he doesn't apologize for that. They do have some problems on the offensive line they've got to work out, but Michael Moody, he can get it done on the ground or through the air, so should be a fun one to watch.
Yeah, you got Georgetown. They've only got, I believe, 3 starters back on defense, so trying to, right out of the gate, stop probably the most dynamic player. Well, you have Harold Atkinson that's in the Grand Strand as well, but I'd probably say the most dynamic player. That's going to be tough for Georgetown.
Right, and I think the one thing that Georgetown does have going for it is that they have a couple of defensive linemen, and Anthony Blair and Dominic Wigfall, that Bradley Adams believes eventually are going to be better than the 2 guys they had on that line last year that are now playing in college. So I think if they have any shot at winning this game, those 2 guys have to be huge because that's what they're expecting, and he is putting so much pressure on them.
That's saying a lot because LaShawn Cromedy was pretty good last year.
North-South guy.
Yeah, right. Exactly. How about Georgetown on offense? They returned their quarterback, Caleb Hughes. I think he's kind of an underrated player, a guy with a lot of experience. Any thoughts on Georgetown's offense?
Yeah, Georgetown's offense is returning, obviously, Caleb Hughes, and their running back, Julian Lunsford, should be a big person as well for their offense. As long as they keep it balanced, I think they can at least put up some numbers against this Conway defense.
I mean, Georgetown's offense, if I remember from last year, they were boom or bust, and sometimes Hughes, as many plays as he did make, he sometimes made some mistakes as well.
Right, and if I'm not mistaken, at one point Georgetown's offense was the highest scoring offense in the area. That includes Myrtle Beach, and then obviously week 9 last year, Myrtle Beach goes out there and crushes them pretty good, and that flip-flopped in a hurry. But Georgetown can put up some points, and it's kind of like what Matt said. If they stay balanced, they can put a few points up on Conway.
Georgetown had the greatest season until that Wilson game at the end where they lost and went double overtime, and that got them dropped down to the 4th seed, so these guys are going to be hungry. I know we don't like to do predictions, but we're just going to do them anyway. I think everyone would probably be shocked if Georgetown won. I'm going to probably take Conway in this one.
I'm sticking with Conway as well. Probably a 2-touchdown game if they do if they are supposed to do.
Yeah, I've got Conway down for probably a 35-17 game somewhere in there.
Throwing some scores at
Yeah, I'm kidding. I come prepared, man.
That's what we do here at the Blitz Weekly Web Chat. But what would it mean? What would it mean to Georgetown to win this game?
It would be huge for Georgetown. They haven't beaten a Class 4A opponent since 2009. They actually did it 2 years in a row, but those were against Carolina Forest when the Panthers were still acclimating to Class 4A football. Before that, I think it was 2006. This is a team that used to be a powerhouse, and they haven't done it. They haven't had a chance to beat many Class 4A opponents, and if they could do it this week, I think it would probably be the biggest win since Bradley Adams took over.
Yeah, if anything, Georgetown, this is going to bring it into a 3-game skid that they've been on from last season.
Right.
And, the returning players, they definitely remember that. Coach Bradley Adams told me this week. These guys are hungry. They know how close they were to being a November team last year. And I think that they're going to go in there with a bit of a chip on their shoulder. So that would mean a lot if they won this game.
Conway, though, Conway's
Powerhouse.
pretty good. And,
Right.
Mike Moody wants to make a statement in his final season. He's been there forever. All right, let's move on to some of the other notable games, if we can. Michael, some of the other Grand Strand games that we'll be taking on a look at least for week 0 action. Sockasty taking on Carolina Forest. That's a good one. Aner at Lakeview. Aner traveling to I guess a little north of them. Not too long of a drive for them. St. James and Loris, and then North Myrtle Beach at Waccamaw. I guess the one that stands out here is the Sockasty Carolina Forest game. Do you call it a rivalry game? They're not too far apart, but I know Carolina Forest's rivalry and St. James, they have different rivals, but it's kind of a rivalry game, right?
Right. I mean, they make sure they're on each other's schedule every year. It's a primary objective for both athletic departments to get the other ones on the schedule because of how close they are. I mean, it only takes about 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Between the two schools. So.
Looking at Sockasty, Matt, have you got a chance to talk to Coach Timmy Renfro? I've got him down for an offensive line that's pretty young.
They are young on the offensive line, and they have a new full-time starter in Hunter Renfro, arguably the best arm of all the Renfro guys. So I'm excited to see what he would do. They went out there at the CMB Classic. They were throwing the ball, which is something we rarely see from the Braves.
He was fun to watch at the end of last year. I know Jordan was hurt a little bit, and Hunter got a chance, and he was. I hope the other Renfro's not listening, but the more electric player, in my opinion.
Oh, without a doubt. And that was something that Jordan even said last year at the beginning of last year. He said,
My brother's better.
when I'm done, you're going to see something really special. And right off the bat, you saw him returning kicks. He was a defensive back. If he intercepted a pass, he was a threat to take it back. Every time he was running, the ball out of that triple option, he was catching a few passes. And then last 3 games of the year, which were arguably their best 3-game span, he was the starting quarterback for that team. He led the school to the first playoff victory in school history.
Yeah, that's special.
Right.
Sockasty, though, on the other side of the ball, defense that they're going to be needing to tackle really well in week number 0 with Harold Atkinson and Carolina Forest coming to town. Do you think this is a year where Carolina Forest just says, okay, we're not going to try to throw the ball as much. We're just going to hand it off to this workhorse and let Harold Atkinson be our ticket to the postseason?
I think it would be a huge mistake because their sophomore quarterback, Will Brunson, has a heck of an arm.
So you think they're going to throw?
I've seen him in one scrimmage and a couple practices this year, and the trick is going to be whether or not he has anybody to throw the ball to. Losing Jarvez Holmes and Aaron Williams, it's going to take some time to adjust. They got a couple guys in sophomore Kyle Belak and senior
Kyle Rice, right?
Jamar White.
What about Yurchek?
And Yurchek as the tight end position. Those guys have some experience, but they're not going to be Aaron Williams and Jarvez Holmes right off the bat. And I think that's what they're going to have to figure out, because if Will Brunson doesn't have anybody to throw the ball to, then they are stuck in that Harold Atkinson 1 down, 2 down, 3 down mode.
I like that play.
Yeah. It worked for 1,400 yards last year, so.
Yeah.
Will Brunson looked great like Ian was saying. I did see him in the scrimmage last week. Obviously, it was against the Green Sea Floyd's team that's smaller and a little overmatched in that scrimmage, but he was throwing the ball up there. I think he completed, 5 of 10 passes or something like that for some pretty good yardage, and I was impressed with his pass catcher, especially Yurchek. I thought he looked good out there.
Yurchek, he's got some height, and he's just a junior, so he's still growing. His daddy's telling him to hit the weight room if you want to get a scholarship to college. The other games we're looking at in the Grand Strand area, you got St. James at Loris. I like this game. You have Loris that lost a ton of talent, and then you have St. James coming in with a coach in his second year. Maybe year 2 under the offense, and how do you see this one playing out, Ian?
St. James is, and this is something we wrote about for the preview, was that St. James is a team that's really starting to follow that enthusiastic lead of their coach. And the other thing that he can do now with a bigger roster, he's got more depth and all that, but he can start throwing his little wrinkles in. I mean, don't be surprised Friday night if St. James comes out and they do some things on offense that nobody saw last year, because now these guys are more used to a system. I know his freshmen are working with the seniors. He's getting everybody ready on the same page. So really, Friday night against Loras, do not be shocked if he pulls some things out of his hat that nobody saw last year.
And you got St. James. While they do have more numbers, their size is kind of a concern for St. James. I mean, they're not like a big school, as in they don't have a line that probably one of those guys is probably not even 250.
Right.
I mean, yeah, on the other side, you got Wilson in the PD. They average 6'2", 295 across the line. Right. So that's working against St. James. But Loras, on the other hand, I mean, they played Myrtle Beach pretty tough at the Kickoff Classic, 7-3. I know it was wet conditions, but, I mean, they can take at least a little bit from that game.
Yeah, they took the field after the storm started, so you have to take that into account. But, you know, Loras and St. James, these are two teams that are in different stages of rebuilding. Loras has lost most of their great starters from last year, so they're going to be rebuilding after a 9-win season last year. So the expectations are there, but not necessarily, I wouldn't look for them to be as talented as they were last year. But St. James, I'm excited about this team. I think they're going to be a team to look towards the playoffs this year, and definitely I think this could be the year for them to finally come out with a winning season.
I hope so. You know, the coach he's a good guy over there, and you like to see his offense come into its form and, you know, do the right thing over there. All right, a couple quick hitters as we kind of wrap this thing up. Grand Strand's most underrated team as of right now. Start with Ian.
I think it's Sockesty. I really think that people are paying attention to him, but at the same time, until somebody else beats Myrtle Beach in that region, it's theirs to lose. And I think that Sockesty could be that team. You know, if certain things happen the way they want them to, they could be that team. And worst case scenario, they're probably going to the playoffs again. They're going to get a chance to win another playoff game.
I'm going to go down the road a little bit with St. James. They're returning a ton of talent. They're finally healthy on the offensive side. Josh Rober had a couple of injuries last year coming back, and then Austin Adams is just a beast on both sides of the ball. So I'm pretty excited about this team.
Two good picks as well. You can't go wrong with either of those. Most underrated team, we just did that, but what team will you think will have biggest improvement? And that's where I lean on North Myrtle Beach. I know they're 0-20 over the last 2 years, but they have to have an improvement. Do you see them picking up their first win this week, and do you see them having a big improvement?
If they lose to Waccamaw, I think it's going to be another very, very long year. At the same time, if they beat Waccamaw, all they need is a little bit of confidence. I mean, those kids just need something. Nobody on that varsity roster has won a game in high school. If something good happens, who knows? I mean, they may win 3, 4, 5 games.
So is that your team that is going to have the most improvement from last year, or are you going to go on a different angle?
I've got somebody else in mind, and that's Aner. And if no other reason, that the Blue Jackets are essentially a de facto Region 8 single A team this year. Those are all their non-region opponents. If they win this game this weekend, they could potentially be 5-0 heading into region play, which is a scary thought at Aner. But when you're playing down for all 5 games, you know, some good things can happen.
And they got a really smart quarterback over there, and, you know, a lot of returners as well. Who do you have as the most improving team?
I've got to go with you with North Myrtle Beach. They return a lot of starters from last year. They've definitely got a chip on their shoulder. None of these players, like Ian said, have won a game in their high school career. And they're hosting a lot of key region games, Georgetown, Myrtle Beach, and St. James. So, like Ian said, if they can get it started against Waccamaw, start some kind of momentum down the stretch, I think this team has a chance to go above 500, and that would be a win for this team, definitely.
Yeah, I think they can go 5-5. Why not? North Myrtle Beach. Let's do it. All right. Final thoughts. Just entering week 0. Football finally here. I know, you know, baseball and basketball and wrestling and all that's fun, but I mean, it doesn't beat pigskin.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, we've been talking about it for 3-4 weeks now, and now that it's finally here, we can go out there and see the tangible evidence of what these guys worked out in the weight room. You know, the weight room routines. You know, new schemes, new coaches, all that kind of stuff. It's a good time of year. It's
a great time of year, like he had said, and I've got to just say, you know, to finally get out there and get out of this mode of what's going to happen and sort of speculating about these teams as to next week we'll have actual action to talk about. I just think it's really exciting. Football's back.
We're definitely excited here. Ian Guerin, Matt Parris, Jeff Zell, you can read about it, listen to it, and then watch it.
Got it all covered.
Yeah, thanks for watching the Blitz Weekly web chat. We'll catch you next week.